Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, from wherever you are joining us from today. My name is Angie Judge from Dexibit. I'm here with Daniel Jordan, our design director.
Hi, how's it going?
And welcome, Daniel. And we're here today to talk about writing queries in Dexibit, an exciting functionality that we're really happy to be able to introduce to you today. Before we dive in, a quick intro for anybody who is here new to Dexibit on what we do. We do data analytics specifically for visitor attractions. We work with both cultural institutions and commercial attractions, some of the biggest names in the business globally. And we help bring together all sorts of data on the visitor and their experience. If you think footfall, ticketing, point of sale, reviews, what's happening online with digital and social, right through to even things like the weather events that are happening in and around your location. And we use all of that data to provide dashboards and reports, insights and forecasts with a user experience that serves both a business user with self-service point and click analytics, as well as a technical user with some new features that we're going to share with you today. So with that being said, I shall leap straight in to hand over to Daniel. Daniel, could you maybe start by sharing with us what the story is so far of how we've got to the point where query language has come to be and what we're hoping to achieve with it?
Yeah, so for the last couple of months or so, we've been really thinking hard about how we can allow our users to get even deeper insights from the visualizations that we already have in our dashboards. And one of the biggest problems that we really wanted to solve is how we can start bringing what we're kind of terming item level data into our insights. And so, if you can imagine for a retail store, they might want to look at the particular products or the top 10 products that are popular within their store or within the tickets, which tickets, whether it's adult or child, which of those are selling, which are the top 10 events that people are going to. All of those things require even deeper analytics and the ability to do that within our familiar toolbox. And so to get to that deeper insight, what we've had to do is build this new query language, which we're calling DxQL, which is very similar to SQL in many senses. But we've put most of that below our familiar interface. So a lot of it that you probably won't interact with at this stage. But the thing that we want to talk about today is we've exposed a small part of it, which is going to allow us to filter that data. And it's a really powerful function that allows you to get a lot more out of the data that you already have.
Could you talk to that a little bit more? What are some of the benefits of DxQL for our users?
Yeah, so I think in terms of the people that need to use it, for people that are more familiar with data analytics, I think they're really going to be able to stretch their muscles a little bit in terms of providing deeper insight and find some really interesting things from the data using these queries. But also people that are familiar with SQL as well. People that are sort of new to the product, are also going to benefit from this because we've tried to create an experience that is easy for first-time users. And I think people that are familiar with Excel, for instance, will find it very easy to switch into this mode and start to kind of get deeper insights from those.
I know for me, I'm not an engineer or an analyst, and there's definitely a little bit of a knowledge learning piece in the beginning, but it was quite an easy skill to pick up, and it was quite fun really to learn something new.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not an engineer either, and we really wanted to make sure that we've taken away the really tricky parts from writing these filters. So a good example of that is it can be really tricky to get dates in a filter in a query. And so what we've done is we've included the familiar date picker within that, so you don't have to worry about writing the date part of a query. That's all done for you. But the kind of more interesting parts where you're querying on, a particular kind of text or something, as we'll see in a second, we've enabled so that you can, query and find some really interesting things.
Oh, fun. And you mentioned item level data. What data sets and sources from the group that we typically look at are applicable for a feature like this?
Yeah, so item level data, we're thinking about, for instance, a retail store where not only do we have data about the transactions that occur each day, we have even deeper data there for what products were sold within each transaction. And so the interesting thing about item level data is, there's a lot of it. So, if a retail store is selling 2,000 sort of items a day, that's going to then add up to sort of 500,000 rows a year, which over several years is several million rows of data. So our system is able to query that data in seconds, as opposed to a spreadsheet, which would probably kind of peak at about, cap out at about 1 million rows, right? So the interesting thing about item level data is that you do need a kind of crunchy system to be able to do it, but some of the other solutions there, or other options, are maybe too technically difficult to engage with. So we've created the system that's able to bring that insight really quickly to you, but through a really simple system. Item level data. So you've got potentially for a retail store, that's all the products that they've sold. Enabling insights like what are the top 10 products that they've sold over a period of years, potentially, or other instances could be tickets, as I mentioned. So, the different types of ticket that you might sell to within a transaction. So you might sell a family ticket, for instance, which includes 2 adults and 2 children tickets. But it can also benefit membership data. So you've got all your different members that you might want to inspect and query based on the information about them. And members might have, the state where they come from, the postcode that they come from, and we might be able to analyze that. And then we have review data as well. So the example that we're going to show in a second is based on review data. And so, an item might be a particular review. And so you can analyze that in aggregate, but pretty much we can analyze anything that comes in a sort of table. We're able to do that. So any kind of custom data sets as well, we can bring on board and start to analyze with this new system.
I know a couple of the real examples that have come up for me lately. We had a customer who was wanting to see visitors within the DMV, like the drive zone of Washington, DC, which is not like a particular state and it's not like a particular county. It's sort of a mixture of states and counties, but not all of them. And so it was a really nice, easy way to be able to include like a list of zip codes and simply say, show me the visitors from within this definition of DMV. And that sort of really spoke to the power of that, because it is there's just so many different applications of this, and the world is our oyster.
That's right.
And just before we dive into have a look at it in product, any other benefits? I know we've talked a little bit about terminology being one of the perks of this new way of looking at item level data.
Yeah, we've sort of rethought the way that we ingest data into the system and allow users to access that. So the way that we've built these visualizations now, they're able to look at the kind of raw data and the original data that we bring in. That means that we have the full richness of the data source that we're bringing in. So there might be additional columns that you have that are specific to a particular vendor, where you put in information that is specific to your venue. And that will all be pulled through into the visualization, and you're able to kind of group by those those dimensions, and you're also able to filter by them in the filter that you'll see shortly. So that has a couple of benefits. One is that it brings the richness of the original data through to your dashboards. But the second is also you'll be familiar with the terms. So if there's a particular term within your, say, your point of sale system, that title of that field is going to be brought through to our system too. So you can kind of interact with these visualizations on the terms that our users will be familiar with.
Mm. Yeah, I hadn't really appreciated quite the value of that until I saw it in practice. And I know some of the benefit of our traditional approach with our data model that provides sort of an industry best practice is that it provides this great sort of turnkey unlock, but this in parallel to that provides such a great, familiarity within that data context with language. Well, I'm looking forward to jumping straight in. And just before Daniel shares a product demo, for those on the call that are new to Dexibit, just a really quick housekeeping tour so that our product here is more familiar to you. This is Dexibit. It is a software as a service. Behind this view that we're looking at here, which you can access in any browser, is a whole bunch of integrations which are pulling through that data automation from various systems, preferably as close to real time as we can get it, or potentially in some cases dealing with things like uploads, etc. And this is the view that the user sees when they log in. You can see on the left-hand side here a bunch of modules. We've got some great calendar controls with some extensive functionality here, really useful for reporting. There's a whole bunch of extra features in here around things like automated reporting, as well as what you've got here in dashboards. And then in this dashboard view here, we can click here, have a look at my dashboards, things that have been shared with me, click to create a new one. And then on my dashboard, I've got a toolbox here, right-hand side, a little library of pre-built visualizations, a studio where I can control what I'm seeing on those. So say, for example, here, I'm looking at my visitation data in terms of popular times, and I can select sort of what day of the week and change up some of the appearance of that. And this is essentially what an example dashboard looks like. Lots of different data from lots of different systems presented in lots of different ways, and the opportunity to bring data from multiple disparate systems together into, say, for example, single metrics or visualizations. So here we're looking at like net new member growth, like the number of members by visitation that's coming through, or in the case of retail, say, for example, a per cap, and combining that all with forecasting goals. So that gives you a really quick tour of the context of what we'll be looking at today. But I'll hand over to Daniel to share his screen to show us what this new query language feature looks like.
Sure, here we go. All right, I'm sharing my screen with you now. So we're looking here at a dashboard that we've created to look particularly at the voice of the visitor. So this is bringing in reviews of this venue, our Museum of the Antarctic here. So this is mock data that we're looking at. And in terms of the source data set, if you imagine, it's a very simple table of reviews that you can imagine that it's got a date column, so the date the review's placed at. It's got the source, so where the review has come from. So that could be Facebook reviews, could be Google reviews, and this particular venue has its own website where users can place, visitors can place reviews as well. And then it has the rating out of 5. So how many stars out of 5 did the visitor score? And then the review itself, so the text of the review. And you can see with that data, we've created a number of different charts here on our dashboard. And what I want to look at here is here's a chart that's showing how many stars this venue has. So you can see that it has 154 4-star reviews, 86 5-star reviews. And if we expand this, what I want to do is start to show you how we can query this, this data to get to some more interesting insights. I'm going to expand this and have a look at the table, and I'm going to switch to a different view, just the table view here. And I'm going to make a quick change to look at the review itself so that we can have a look at the text of the reviews. Here we go. And what I can do is I can start to filter these. So you can see I've got 470 reviews over here, and all mentioning different things, but I want to drill down and have a look at the reviews that mention food so that I can start to get a sense of, what people are talking about when they're talking about the food at the venue. And in our toolbox here, you can see, if you're familiar with the Dexibit toolbox already, there's a few extra features here. One of which is this filter box here, which allows us to enter a query. So this is, if you're familiar with SQL, this is the where statement within a SQL query. And it uses really simple syntax here. So we can start off with the column that we're after, which is review. So we can enter review, and then we're going to find reviews where they've mentioned food. So we can do that by entering like, and we can then enter food. But one thing we're going to do is this would return any reviews where the only word in that review is food. But we can enter some wildcards in here. So we can put the percentage sign on either side. So this is going to return any reviews where the word food is mentioned, and then it's going to match anything on either side of that. So it's a wildcard that allows us to bring back all food related reviews. And so if I click that, it's going to return everything where there's a mention of food. So that's 12 reviews in total. Now, if we wanted to think about reviews where they've also mentioned price, we can add an extra statement here. So we could say, or, and the review, we can copy this part. The review was like price. So this is going to return all reviews that mention both food or price. And so this is going to return a few more, so 39 different reviews there. But if we're particularly interested in reviews where they've mentioned both food and the price, we can change this to and then that's brought back 4 reviews. So you can see that by building up these queries, you very quickly get to some really interesting insights. And if you're particularly concerned about, I don't know, visitors to a bathroom, and maybe you've had some complaints and you want to see how that has improved over time, you could create a chart that shows you the average review over time, and then you could filter it down to look at where the reviews mention, for instance, bath or restroom or something like that. So really powerful feature. And if I return to the food here, and what I can do is I can switch to the chart mode, and then if I look at the rating, I can see that for reviews that mention food, we've got 4 3-star ratings, 3 4-star ratings, and we can kind of see how different things are reviewed based on this filter, which is really helpful. So what I want to look at next is this chart over here. So it's showing complaints by source, and you can see that we've got 3 different sources of reviews here. And what we've done is in the filter box over here, we've looked at ratings where the rating out of 5 is equal to 1. But if we wanted to modify this slightly, we can also use some different symbols here to say we wanted to look at or include within our visualization 1-star and 2-star reviews, we can modify this to be less than equal to 2. And then that's going to show us both the 1-star and 2-star reviews here. And you can use a number of different symbols here. So for instance, you could have greater than, equal to, and I'll show you, you can do not equal to as well. And so let's add in another statement here and say that we want to exclude from the sources the website source. So we're going to type in here source. And then to do not equals, you do an exclamation mark and an equals symbol. And then we're going to include website here. Whoops. And so what that's going to do is it's going to exclude this column. And it's just going to show us Facebook and Google. But I'll show you another way of writing this because this could be useful where you've got maybe 20 categories of product, for instance, that you want to filter. We can also use in, and then we can write a list of items that we want to include. So here we're going to include Facebook and Google. And so this is showing us Facebook and Google, and that could be really useful where you're looking for maybe a couple of categories within 50 categories. The other thing you can do is you can say not in, and that's going to return us the website category as well. So if it's easier to exclude certain things, you can do it that way too. So we have a number of other examples in our help document that we've linked to here, and we can go through, and we've seen quite a few of these, but we've kind of documented this extensively. And we're adding all the time to the functionality of DxQL as we build up its capabilities. So hopefully that's a quick overview of the power of the DxQL and the filters that it enables you to do in the visualizations.
Thanks so much, Daniel. That's really exciting to have a look at, and can't wait for this to come on the way. Which leads us into Q&A. For those live on the call, if you do want to pop any questions you have in the chat for us to discuss now. First one, which I know will come up, is when is it coming? When will we see it?
Yeah, so we're currently working in beta mode. So we've got the visualizations ready in the product, but we have limited it to a few people that we're working with, but we're very keen to include more people in the beta testing so that we can get more feedback and continue to evolve it. And so if you're watching this and you're really interested in how that might be applicable to you, then please do get in touch with us, because we would love to start working with more people and involving them in the beta. And slowly, as we've kind of smoothed off some of the edges of the solution, and we feel confident with it, we'll begin to roll it out to the product in general. Yeah.
And I know that there is a couple of feature additions that we're polishing up at the moment around multiple group buys, sorting by top and bottom items, say, for example, for retail stores that want to see their top 20 or their bottom sellers, for example. Beyond some of these initial ones, what is the big vision for where this might go in the future?
Yeah, that's right. So not only have we kind of improved or created this language DxQL, we've also put a lot of effort into the way that the visualizations work. So we're we've got a lot of powerful features that we're adding in, and we've kind of multiplied really the number of charts and visualizations that you're able to create through this new toolbox. The other thing is that we want to kind of unleash this power of DxQL to users too. So maybe more advanced users would be able to type in the entire query if they wanted to and really get to the data that they're after. And we have a module called Data Explorer, which is essentially allows you to type in a query and return a table of data underneath. And that's going to be really powerful for really getting to really granular insights. So yeah, that's another thing that we're working on and looking forward to sharing soon.
Because I know when you were working with the query just now, we were looking at a set of the data, but sort of seeing the entire set of all of the different columns as you're querying the data, and being able to extract those and download them out and search them through is a really useful context to have when you're forming queries in your head.
Yeah, that's right. So the table we were looking at is very simple in terms of reviews, but as you get to more complex data like tickets and retail, there's a wealth of information within that. And we really like to make the experience of finding that information and knowing what to filter by as easy as possible so that it reduces the time to get to really interesting insights.
Very cool. And anything else to add before we wrap up, Daniel?
I think that's everything.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with us today. And for those that have joined us live in the webinar or watching the playback later, looking forward to sharing this feature with you and digging into all of the endless insights that it's going to bring us across lots of different data sets. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks a lot. Great. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye. Bye.